Hello. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. I know that we have several who are tuning into the replay, and for those of you here live, it is I'm honored. I'm genuinely honored to meet you and to have you in this space. Welcome to Set Your Goddess Soul Free. I am Sophia Christine. For those of you who don't know me, I am somebody who's very spiritual, who also loves business. So I've kind of created something where I blend the two together. I primarily focus on helping new entrepreneurs start soul-led businesses. But I feel like within that, there's a lot of like personal growth and spirituality and really trusting in this greater divine force that I think is inherent in our human nature. And today I want to specifically speak on this idea of setting your goddess soul free, because each of us has this goddess within us. And I feel like in our life, in our society, we almost like shut her down. We shut the goddess soul down through fear, through anger, through shame, through telling ourselves that we're not allowed to feel these things, we're not allowed to do these things, that we're wrong to feel and do these things. So today, I want to just invite you to have an open mind and even maybe just take a minute. I know we just moved our bodies, which is really nice, but I invite you to close your eyes and just ask your spiritual self, your idea of divine, to help you just set to the side everything that you think you know, so that you can come to this space with an open mind. And know that this idea of wanting to know everything is really a safety mechanism. It's a survival mechanism that we use to try to control the future. So you're welcome to come back however you'd like. You're back, welcome. So one of the reasons why I'll give you, because some of you don't know me or you're new to my world, and I just want to give you a little background on who I am. So I, like I said in the beginning, I'm very spiritual. When I was 16, so very young, my dad got really into hypnotherapy, and I started like doing past life regressions, and I was opened up to this world of spirituality and past lives and like the subconscious mind and healing. And I became very arrogant because I was very young, and I was like, oh, like I'm so smart. I know all this stuff about healing and spirituality. And that mentality actually got me in a lot of trouble. And in my early 20s, I really struggled with alcohol abuse. And it was something that I didn't think was a problem. And it started, creating more problems in my life. Eventually, I ended up getting arrested. I got a DUI, and it was kind of this moment where I was like, oh, fuck, like I'm so conscious. I know I create my reality, yet I'm creating this mess. So something's not aligned. And it really sent me on this deep soul journey. This was in 2017, so it's been over 5 years. And it sent me on this deep soul journey where I thought I knew all this stuff, but in reality, I wasn't embodying a lot of the stuff that I thought I knew. And over the last 5 years, I've really dove in deep into freedom, this idea of freedom, financial freedom, emotional freedom, mental freedom, freedom in our everyday lives, freedom within our body, sovereignty, this idea of sovereignty, like us being able to make our own decisions, not letting other people influence our decisions, not letting other people make our decisions for us, having the freedom and the personal power to make our own decisions. So through this journey of getting sober and really having to relearn a lot of this stuff, I learned a lot about emotions, and I learned a lot about how much shame I had around feeling emotions. because I thought I was so spiritual. I thought it wasn't spiritual to feel emotions. I thought it wasn't spiritual to be angry or sad or fearful, because it's like, well, I know better. My logical mind knows better, but my outer circumstances are not reflecting this. And my internal experience is also not reflecting this. So something's misaligned. So one of the subjects I want to speak on today is this idea of letting ourselves be human and letting ourselves feel feelings and not making that wrong. Because, you know, what really tripped me up was this like manifestation law of attraction community that's like, our thoughts create our reality and our feelings create our reality. So for so long, I was afraid of feeling negative feelings. And I realized that that actually was such a disservice to myself. And it really kept me trapped inside of this idea of who I thought I had to be in order to be happy, in order to be successful. And that's not real, right? Like it's these, we have to be careful because nowadays we're learning information from so many different sources. We're reading books, we're doing master classes, we're learning from mentors and teachers. And a lot of times we have other people's ideas in our head that we think are our own. And it's really important to know, like, what's your truth, right? Because my truth is that if I don't express my negative emotions, if I don't acknowledge the fact that I'm in fear or that I'm in anger, then I'm denying it. And then that creates more problems for my life than if I pretend like everything's fine and turn a blind eye and focus on the positive. It's like, yes, I understand where the logic is in that, but I also think there's pure magic and so much freedom in feeling our fucking feelings. Like if we're going through something, allowing yourself to feel angry, allowing yourself to feel fearful. But the caveat is we don't let that take over our lives. We don't get lost in it. We almost look at it as like our own inner child that's like throwing the tantrum or having the deep fear. And we're like, whoa, there's this part of me that's really fearful or that's really upset or that's really disappointed. And I know from a greater soul perspective that even though I'm feeling this so internally, I know that like everything's going to be okay, but I'm not going to spiritually bypass my negative emotions because my inner child is fucking raging or my inner child is fucking afraid as all living hell. Like acknowledging this part of ourselves that is experiencing the emotions and finding a safe space to express. And I think this is where a lot of times like we don't know how or where to express our emotions. And it's challenging, right? Like we're not really taught where and how to express emotions. A lot of times we end up bottling things up and then we end up exploding on people that we love, meaning we mean well. We're not trying to do that, or we say things that we regret, or we do things that we regret, or we deny our emotions and express it out through our behaviors and our actions. And it creates these like negative patterns. But I really feel deeply that a big part of setting our soul free, Summer says, whoa, so spot on with a combo. I was literally just having the safe and healthy expression release of emotions. Yeah. And it's like the release of emotions, right? Like this is about setting our goddess soul free. It's like that releasing, like we're literally bound up by the emotions. And if you want to look at the energetics of it, emotions have a lot of energy behind them, right? They're like, emotions are essentially energy that's in our body. And if we don't release it, it's going to stay in our body and it's going to impact our lives in ways that we don't desire. So like learning how to work with these emotions and also not making them wrong, not being like, oh God, I'm such a loser. I'm so afraid, or, oh my God, I'm such a horrible person. I got angry. Like, no, our emotions are God-given. Or whatever, God's a triggering word. So if that's not the word you use, like you're welcome to use whatever word resonates with you. But just for simplicity, I'll say God. God-given emotions, right? Like that's like saying, oh, I don't like my large and my small intestine because they make poop. Like I don't like poop. I don't like shit. So I'm not gonna. I hate this part of my body. It's like no, we don't think like that, but we're so many of us are like, oh, I'm feeling angry. I'm a horrible person. Oh, I'm feeling sad. I should not be feeling sad. I should not be feeling fearful. and we make our emotions wrong. And it's such a trap, right? I think a way that we can healthily express emotions is like, one, finding a safe space, but two, understanding that emotions pass. Ashley says, especially as women. Yeah, like anger for women is like really shunned. It's like very shunned. Like people want us to be like men. Like men are like, their hormonal cycle is 24 hours. They're literally like if you had mapped out a men's hormonal cycle, it would be like a straight line. Women are like this, like literally, like we have a 28-day hormonal cycle. Like we're biologically different. Our bodies process information and emotions differently. And we need to learn how to work with that and like make it okay and not let it stop us in our life. Because I feel like what oftentimes happens is we're in deep fear, we're in deep anger, and we get swept away in it. And then we lose where we want to be going. So most of the women in this space are entrepreneurs. If you're not an entrepreneur, I know that inside each and every one of us, we have a desire to achieve greatness in our life. It's like a fundamental desire. We desire the feeling of significance. We desire to do great things with our lives, to be of service. It's like an altruistic aspect of our nature that I think exists in every one of us. So with knowing this, we're all destined for greatness. Our souls all came here to achieve amazing things, to help other people, to have experiences, good and bad, growth and stagnancy, all of it, like we're here to experience all of it, but not letting the difficult or negative times like totally throw us off track, because it's easy to get swept away in the emotions. And it's a balance between honoring yourself and like honoring your energy and allowing yourself to feel and express your emotions, but also like knowing that it's going to pass, that you are safe no matter what. Like this is where I love the spiritual side of it, because it's like we're souls and bodies having a human experience, and like we're not going to be in these bodies forever, like period. Doesn't matter what your spiritual beliefs are, like we're not going to be in these bodies forever. So there's no use in like, we know how it ends. We're going to die. Like we just know how it ends. Where we go after that, I have my beliefs. There's many different beliefs. Do we know for sure? No, it's unknown, but we know for sure that we're going to die. We're not going to be in these bodies eventually. So like we're safe. Like we know that we're safe. It's almost like this sacred safety. And knowing that, it allows us to like love ourselves through the emotions, right? Because we know that like, whoa, the other thing about emotions that I want to put in here is that our emotions have a lot to teach us, and there's a divine reason we have them. Like anger is a safety response, right? So the thing with anger, like if you're in the jungle and you get attacked by a tiger, you're going to need that adrenaline and cortisol to like run and get the fuck out of there. If you don't have that response, you're going to get eaten. So we need anger. The problem, I don't even like to call it a problem, but where it becomes sticky for us is that a lot of our anger is misdirected, and a lot of our fear is misdirected, because fear and anger are like primary survival emotions. Very common, very primal. We experience them like driving on the freeway, somebody swerves in your lane, your body's going to go into fear. But a lot of times our fear and anger is around our identity. It's not around our actual physical safety. It's around our identity. So having enough emotional intelligence to understand like, what's the identity I've assigned for myself in this situation? Oh, I see myself, like, let's say you're dating somebody and he's not texting you back. Like you've assigned yourself the role as like, you're an awesome woman, you're so dateable, you're so lovable. And if he's not texting you back and the mind goes into fear, the reason it goes into fear is because that situation is threatening your identity as being lovable. It's threatening your identity as being a good girlfriend. It's threatening these identities that we've assigned to ourselves. but our identity, our physical safety is not actually threatened. But I think there's a lot of power in knowing how to identify what these thoughts are, what these identities, these roles that we've assigned to ourselves are, because then we can kind of like break it down and acknowledge like, oh, there's a part of me, okay, he's not texting me back. There's part of me that fears I'm unlovable. Oh shit. Okay, where does this come from? Okay, this comes from my childhood. This came from like that one time, my parents weren't around. Oh, okay, but bringing in the spiritual component, knowing that like looking at our spiritual beliefs, like divine, God, source, whatever is all loving, and like we literally are like love itself. So we're able to kind of like bring the spiritual truths, like these very high level truths, in to break up some of the identity fears. So I think that's a really important part too of like liberating our soul and our spirit, is understanding that like the universe is loving. It is so loving. And a lot of times we have beliefs that make us feel like it's not loving. So it's really important too to look at like, what do you actually believe? Do you believe that everything is happening for you? Do you believe that like the divine and infinite intelligence has your back no matter what? Like, do you believe that? If we're in fear, a lot of times fear also is like fear of love, infinite divine consciousness not being there for us through whatever we're going through. So this masterclass was also inspired by death. I lost my dog in June in a very freak accident. And then I had one of my clients who lost her grandmother, and she was asking me about grief. She was like, I want to show up for my business. I have all this grief. What do I do? Like, I have all this emotion. And it inspired this masterclass because I was like, this is common, right? Like, I don't hear enough people speaking about like, how do I show up for my life when I'm feeling really intense emotions, when I'm feeling grief, when I've lost somebody I loved, when I'm going through a breakup, when I'm moving cities, when I've lost my job, like when I'm going through something unexpected and crazy. How do I still show up for my life? Because a lot of times people are like, oh, just like fake it till you make it, put on a smile and like show up and do the stuff. And it's like, what if instead we built communities and spaces around us that allowed us to show up even in our vulnerability, even in our emotional state, without dumping it on other people, but from like an empowered place. So transmuting, alchemizing the difficult emotions to really empower other people. Because I have found that all of us, especially women, because of the like biology of how we're designed, are so deeply emotional. And so much of the outside society, I don't know, everyone here is kind of like on the new earth wave. So we're like really open and like vulnerable and like love it. And like, we've created this space, but even though we're in this space, we all still dabble in the outside world because it just exists. It's just like, there's a few different paradigms that people are living in, and like, we're all connected no matter what. So we're never like exclusively disconnected from whatever paradigm, the paradigm where people don't share their emotions and do all that stuff. Like, we're still somewhat connected to that. But there are places, very big places in this world that are like, we don't share our vulnerable feelings. We don't share what's really going on in our life, right? But what if you, as a leader, as a spirit-led leader, as somebody who's on this new earth train, who's literally creating a new reality for the people that you bring into your space, you're showing people the way, that you've paved. What if you showed up in your real raw emotions? Because other people are probably going through the same stuff. And it's not from a place of like, poor me, I want to just get this off and share and make the world my diary. Nor is it, I want to share about this for attention because I know that this shit's powerful. Instead, it's like, wow, I feel like somebody could really use this message right now. And I feel like I really want to share it because that feels better than not sharing it. And this is where we get into like loving our humanness, right? Like not making the emotions wrong, not trying to be perfect until we show up and do the stuff that we want to do. I mean, I'm like a recovering perfectionist. I'm like, oh, I have to be perfect. I have to look good. I have to say the right thing on social media and my post. Oh, I misspelled a word. Oh my God, they're gonna think I'm not intelligent. Oh my God. Like instead of like creating a space where the people around us love us so much and look up to us so much that they're like, damn, I love that you showed up in your raw truth. I love that you misspelled a word because you're a human. So that when I misspell a word, I can be like, well, I'm a human. We're never going to be able to avoid making mistakes. And we have to learn to like be okay with that, because bringing back the spirituality, the divine is so loving that there are no mistakes. It's not like, we make a mistake, and I say with air quotes because it's not really a mistake, but that's like the word that we put towards it. There are no mistakes in God's world. So that also brings me a lot of peace, because if you lose somebody you love, there's no mistakes in God's world. That was divinely planned. Is it sad? Is it frustrating? Fuck yes. Are you allowed to feel those feelings? Absolutely. Should you be taking them out on other people? Probably not. Can you trust so deeply within that situation? Losing somebody, going through a breakup, random, unexpected, really emotional events happening in your life. Can you trust that God's going to catch you on the other side of it? Can you trust that God's going to catch the other people involved on the other side of it? It's like this blind faith. It's dancing in the unknown. And this is where it gets really interesting, because I find that as a society, we're really uncomfortable with the unknown. So like when somebody dies, like where do they go? I don't know. I mean, I have ideas, but I don't really know what's going to happen in 2 months. What's going to happen if I leave this relationship? Where am I going to live? Where am I going to go? It's like, I don't know. What's going to happen tomorrow? I don't know. Nobody knows. But that's also really cool that we don't know, because it's like this mystery of life. If we knew everything, how boring would that be? Right? It would be so boring to like know how everything's going to unfold. So like we almost like get this liberation, like setting our goddess soul free. I love seeing you, Summer. You look so beautiful. Through just deeply trusting that even if we don't know how something's going to work out, it's going to be okay. And even if it's a shitstorm, it's still going to be okay, because we're going to learn what we need to learn through it. And like I have found, like I share my DUI story all the time, because it was like such a shitstorm. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to jail. I'm doing all these fucking legal things. And it was like really nasty. Speaking to my soul. Thank you. Yeah, this is deep for me. This is really deep stuff. But my DUI led me to getting sober, and it led me to like meeting some of the most incredible people who changed my life. It led me to meeting my mentor who lives in Bali, who I've worked with for years, who's like been my life coach and my best friend and like everything. Like she's literally changed my life. And like, I wouldn't have met her if I didn't get a DUI. So like, you never know how God is arranging circumstances in your life in your favor. And it can look like a shitstorm. And this is where we have to really let go. And this is why, to be honest, between us, I don't like law of attraction and manifestation communities, because it's like, not that there's anything wrong against them. Everybody has the right to pursue their desires or whatever, and however they desire. But for me, it shoots me in the foot, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't even know what's best for me. I can say like, oh, I want to sign 10 clients by December, whatever. But how do I know that like that's ultimately what's going to be best for me, right? Or like, we just don't know, right? Like, I wouldn't imagine that getting a DUI was going to be the thing that really like set my soul free or like led me to a different way of life, right? Um, and I'll be honest with you guys right now too, I'm going through a breakup. And this is another thing that inspired this is like it was my decision to leave. And I feel like it's a lot of emotions. And I feel this like sense of freedom and this like deep fear of like, what the actual fuck is going to happen on the other side of this? And I don't know. And that's okay. And I've been taken care of in the most divine way throughout this process, even though it hasn't been easy and my partner and I are not on the same page with this, which makes it harder. But there's like, this is why I'm saying like learning to listen to yourself, like I said in the beginning, and make your own decisions for yourself from this foundation of deep faith, from this foundation of like, you've got you no matter what. We're so afraid of our emotions. Like we're afraid of things happening because we're afraid of the emotions that we're going to feel when they happen. We're not afraid of the actual thing happening. We're afraid of the emotions that we're going to feel. So we literally create this like cage around us because we're like, oh, that's going to be scary. I'm not going to do that. That's going to make me angry or possibly like uncomfortable. I'm not going to do that. And we're not like consciously thinking this. A lot of it's beneath the surface. And this is why it's such a trip. This is why like bravery and courage are not pleasant. They're not comfortable. Like it doesn't feel good, but it feels worse not to do it. So this is another reason why like I love emotions. Like I'm a double Cancer. I'm a Cancer sun and Cancer moon. So like Summer's a Cancer too. I feel really deeply. Like I feel my emotions really deeply and I don't want to be a victim of my emotions. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm in so much fear. I'm not going to do this. You don't think I have fear? Like it's scary getting on and doing a master class. It's scary leaving a 4-year relationship. It's scary buying a one-way flight to Mexico and not knowing where I'm going to live and stay. It's scary. Like it's scary. It's scary to invest tens of thousands of dollars in yourself and your personal growth and not know if you're ever going to make it back. It's scary to live. It's scary to be a human, but the alternative is living small. And that's scarier to me than living large. So it's like learning how to be okay with this human experience. And for me, if you take away one thing from this class, it's that the divine is so loving. We can't even imagine how loving it is. Like literally, our human mind is not designed to be able to process that kind of infinite love. It would probably literally explode with like how much love there is for us. So knowing that as the foundation of everything, it's like, we're safe. We're like infinitely divinely supported and connected. And no matter what's going on in the outside world, this is God's world. Like government thinks it's its world. Like, whoever, like, this is why I kind of laugh when people are like, like Illuminati and whatever. It's like, okay, maybe that's real, but it's still God's world. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of evil forces or whatever is out there. Like, it's all God's world. And at the end of the day, like, that's the power that rules. So there's really nothing to be afraid of. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of. Everything ultimately goes back to that in the end. Like, the mind can't even grasp how long infinity and eternity is because it's like, we're not designed for that. We're designed to not know the future. We're designed to like trust. I personally believe that that's why we're here, is to learn how to trust, to learn how to be free of the stuff that prevents us from living fully, right? It's karmic lessons as well. Like we resolve our karma through connecting back to this love, through forgiveness, through moving through the anger, through moving through the fear, right? But we can't resolve our karma if we deny it, if we suppress it, if we don't do it. But also knowing too, like karma's tricky too, because it's like what goes around comes around. Bringing even that back to this idea that God is so loving that there's no punishment, there's no mistakes. It's not like God's like, oh, well, you had sex with too many guys, so I'm going to punish you and like not give you a good relationship. It's like, no, there's nobody there's no force out there that's like plotting your downfall or out there to punish you. Like, we're here to learn and evolve. Preach. Yes, I love it. We're here to learn and evolve and grow. And yeah, there's some ladies who know each other in here. This is awesome. Divine connections. Ah! And then Jasmine, oh, she did it. She muted herself. That's awesome. So with this is the foundation, right? Then we're free to do the bold things. And I think also too, like I said, a lot of us are entrepreneurs. So we have big dreams. Starting a business is like a huge journey in faith because it's not in our control. We can't force people to sign up for our programs or our offers. We just have to trust that if we're doing what's really embodied and aligned for us, that the right people are going to come. But it's like continuing to do the stuff, being okay with making mistakes. Do you know how many programs I've offered and nobody's signed up? Like a handful. I'm like, okay. But I've also had programs where I've made $20,000, $15,000. So it's like, we have to try things. We have to put ourselves out there. We have to be okay with like not getting it the first time. I think this is also part of setting ourselves free is like, if we're waiting, if we're afraid to make mistakes and that's making us wait, what a trap. What a trap. I mean, worst case scenario, like everyone in this room has at least a smartphone or a laptop to tune into. So I'm assuming like you're, financially stable enough to have that in your life, or you have somebody in your life who's willing to provide that for you. So like we all have our basic needs met if you're in this space, I'm assuming. So like there's no real threat in doing the things that we want to do. Even if we get in debt, even if we like I invested heavily in myself this last year, like multiple 5 figures, like as much as a down payment on a house in like Florida could be. Florida house, not California house. This is like way too expensive, but if you live in California, you know, but is it scary? Yes. Fuck yeah. Am I okay? Yes. Am I safe? Yes. Are you safe? You are safe, right? And it's like, this has been a huge journey for me over the last 6 months, is like knowing and deeply believing like I'm safe. It doesn't matter if I'm X amount of dollars in debt. It doesn't matter if I'm like, nobody's signing up for my offer. It doesn't matter if I'm like buying a one-way flight to Mexico and like don't know how long I'm going to be there and whatever. Like I'm safe. Like I'm going to be safe. And even like, this is where I don't know. I like to go here because it's like kind of outrageous, but like, let's think about like the craziest situation, right? Like, let's say, okay, this is kind of brutal. But I want it to be extreme so you understand like how the mind works. So let's say, okay, Mexico thing, right? Like Mexico's like dangerous. People are like, okay, like let's say worst thing that happens in Mexico is I get like kidnapped and murdered or whatever. Like that's horrible. I hope that doesn't happen. But like, the mind goes there. The mind's like trying to keep us safe. So it's like thinking about all these things. It's like, if that happens, I'm still going to die. That's the ultimate truth. My soul's still going to be okay. I'm still going to have opportunities to learn. I don't know what kind of lessons my soul's going to learn within that. Like some of the most powerful people in humanity, like, I love Gandhi. He's one of my favorite leaders. He spent many years in prison, like he changed India. He like freed India from British rule. Like it was incredible, going to prison is like not on the dream list. It's not on the vision board, but he didn't care, right? Because his soul like was in it for the mission. It was in it for the greater purpose. And that's why like part of, I believe, setting ourselves free is like being okay with the punches that life has to throw at us and being so deeply rooted in our faith and our foundation that it's like, all right. That's where we anchor in. That's where we build from. That's where we take action from. That's where we take action. That's how we make bold decisions. Making bold decisions, leaving relationships, investing in yourself, changing careers, choosing a career, starting a business, like big decisions, having a child, like big decisions. there's frantic ways to make these decisions, in my experience and belief. And then there's soul guided ways to make these decisions. And frantic ways come from scarcity. So like, oh, I'm not going to get another opportunity to do this again. I need to do it right now. Scarcity is a lie. Like, there's no scarcity. The opportunity might be different in the future, but you're not going to not have another opportunity to do the thing. It might be different. It might not be in this lifetime. It might be in a different lifetime, but like, doing something from a place of like, I need to do this now or I'm never going to get to do it again is kind of like a frantic energy in my experience and belief. A soul-led energy is like, I'm really big on prayer. So I pray every morning and I pray throughout the day. And I'm really big on making decisions like with divine support. So how I like to make decisions is having a conversation with God, being like, hey, I can't stop thinking about this thing. If it's meant for me, please help me, move in the way you would have me move through the situation, act in the way you would have me act in the situation. If it's not meant for me, please help me stop thinking about it or learn what I need to so I can move on from it. Because a lot of times it's like learning, like all of it's learning. We're here for the soul evolution. And I have found with that approach, like prayer has worked so many wonders in my life. And it's something I really encourage all my clients to do, because there is no denying that there's some kind of greater force out there. All of you are pretty spiritual and open. So like, you know that. And I think when we open ourselves up to work with it and make decisions with this infinite force, we're so supported and things just like magically unfold. Like I can't make this shit up. It's wild, right? So like, I love to pray. The way that I pray is to pray for knowing what divine will is for me. Like, how God, universe, how would you have me act and speak and show up in this situation? How would you use me, opening up to being used by the universe rather than using the universe for our own end aims? How would you use me? How would you use me? How would you, what would you have me do in this situation? Would you have me sign up for the program? Would you have me buy the plane ticket? Would you have me break up the relationship? And we don't always get like it's not a black and white thing. God's not like yes and no. It's not like an on-off switch. But I found that in time, we'll always be guided to the right decision, and we can't rush it. Like, there is a divine unfolding that cannot be rushed. And I also think this is part of the liberation process, is like not rushing things. Because rushing things is like controlling the future, not being okay with the unknown, trying to make things happen how we think they're supposed to, in our way, in our timeline. It's like the opposite of liberation. It's like control. It's like, okay, well, this doesn't really feel good for me, at least. So as we are doing brave things, as we're starting businesses and traveling and starting and leaving relationships and starting families and changing careers and doing these things that are big in our lives, right? Like, your life can look very different in 6 months from now. If you start making changes, it can look the same, right? It's not wrong. Neither way is wrong. You're going to evolve, and your life's going to unfold exactly as it's supposed to in exactly the right way. It's just like, there is this level of like, ooh, here's where it gets really good. So I like kind of channel when I'm working on channeling and less planning, because channeling is more magical than planning, in my opinion. But trusting that the universe wants us to be so successful and thrive, and it has big visions for us. So this is where like we also have to look at our beliefs around divine will, because a lot of times like the ego mind is like, I don't want to surrender to divine will because what if it doesn't want me to be a millionaire? What if it doesn't want me to be successful? What if divine will doesn't want that for me? And possibly, but I think that divine will wants you to thrive. It wants you to be free from the bondage of yourself. It wants you to be free from the ego limitations. It wants you to thrive limitlessly and like get to explore and like really have this full faith human experience where we're like, ooh, I can move in this world and I'm safe because I'm so divinely supported by the universe and like everything's going to be okay. So yeah. Yeah. I have some notes too. I'm going to take a look. I think, yeah, that's like a lot of it. Does anyone have questions or thoughts? I'd love to know what landed with you. What were those moments you were like, "Ooh, this is good." And you are being recorded, so if you're not comfortable sharing, that's also fine. I see a hand raised. Okay, Vanessa, yeah, I would love to hear it.
Hi, Sophia. Yes. And everyone. I'm so happy right now just being surrounded by beautiful soul-aligned souls who are just really into their faith and just like really wanting to grow spiritually. And this is all of us, like you mentioned, when you say it's really us being here as the new earth. And I really resonate with definitely turning to God. Like you just saying prayer is like, my heart was just like singing and dancing because I turned so strongly to my faith as well. I'm very like, I used to be, and also even like with all the emotions that you were saying, like emotions is really what makes us so beautiful. And yeah, so everything that you mentioned about emotions, like I realized that I definitely am very emotional as well. And before in the past, I was like really shunned by having all this emotion and sensitivity. But as I'm learning and going through my spiritual healing journey, I was like, no, this is actually what makes me special. And so I resonate with you because I'm like, yes, like we need to show our emotions. We need to share that emotions are safe to express and feel. So yes to that. And then also just having the spiritual faith in God and knowing and trusting so deeply in your heart, like your soul already knows what you want. And it's just really trusting and surrendering to the divine, to God, and having like so much faith in God and yourself, knowing that this is meant for you, no matter how uncertain it is. So yes to that. And I'm just literally just following things as it goes, one step at a time, and just following the good feeling. And I'm resonating with you, and I'm resonating like everything that you're saying. I was just like, yay. So yes, thank you.
Yay, thank you for sharing, Vanessa. It's so awesome to have you here. It's lovely to meet you. Thank you for sharing. I know it's like it feels good to share too, and it's also kind of scary. So you are already living in these teachings, and I love it. Natasha says, this was so good, definitely speaking to me in so many ways. Ashley said, I had this aha moment, realizing that there is that manifestation of writing down intentions, etc. But what you're speaking about feels like action-oriented manifestation, like a declaration to the universe of what we want through action and trust. Yeah, I like that. And I think like for me, manifestation is really like a co-creation with the universe of being like, okay, God, I want this thing, but if that's not your plan for me, I'm okay with that. Because I know that sometimes what I want, I mean, you know how many things I wanted in my life that I didn't get, and I'm so glad I didn't. I wanted to be a real estate agent. I wanted to be an actress and a singer. If I was an actress right now, that's like not where my heart and soul are at. Like, I'm like, oh God, I'm so glad that did not happen. So it's this like, yes, it's oriented in action, but also knowing too, like, yeah, I did take acting classes for 6 months. I spent a lot of money on that. Was that wrong? No, because I grew and evolved in that process. So like, even if we are taking action, it's never going to be wrong. Even if we miserably fail by societal standards, it's never going to be wrong when we're paired up with this divine force, when we're really walking hand in hand with this divine force, and we walk hand in hand with it through literally speaking to it like it's like a human, like right there, like offering, hey, I want to walk with you, I want to work with you, like For me also meditation is a big thing, like quieting the mind, getting out of myself, my ego thoughts and being like, ooh, that's why I had us in the beginning be like, help me set aside these things I think I know, because my mind likes to know and likes to predict the future because that's where safety is and trying to control the future, but that's not reality because we can never control the future. But yeah, I love these insights. This is awesome. This is a lot of the work that I'm moving into. So I have a lot of exciting things going on. I thought I was going to share with you today, but I don't feel quite ready yet because I kind of decided I was like a couple hours ago, I was like, ooh, maybe I should like start sharing about this thing. But I am working on some really cool stuff behind the scenes. And I'm also like trusting when it's the right time to share about that. But if you are interested at all in like deepening this conversation or deepening this work, like I love this stuff. Like this is the stuff that I feel like has changed my life the most. It's not the business, it's not the strategy. The business and the strategy are awesome and they help make money and that's great. But it's like without this, life's just like kind of flat, in my opinion. So you can have all the money and stuff without like faith and courage and like embodying your highest truth. It's like, yeah. Natasha said, the confirmation for me today was that when dealing with emotions and triggers, it's the realization of how we talk to others or about others on a subconscious level. It takes this as we're talking to ourselves. Yeah. Um, yeah. And like I mentioned, I think you might have, I don't know if you were here, Natasha, I was kind of saying like speaking to our own inner child as it's like going through the emotions is like really important, like recognizing like, oh, I'm in fear, like where does this fear come from, like, where is this really going? um I think also too with emotions, like finding a community is so important that you can like be yourself in. There's something really powerful about using our voice, like literally speaking. And when we speak about, I've had a whole journey with my throat chakra. It's another masterclass. But um, I find that when I speak my vulnerable truth, there's like this power that's like, oh, fuck, what is happening inside of me? Like, whoa, it's like crazy. Like, supernatural forces, but not from a triggered, like, fuck you, I hate you place. Like, that's not the vibe. That's the safety response, right? That's the like triggered, I'm being chased by a tiger. I got to get the fuck out of here because I'm in like survival mode, fight or flight. Like, that's not the healthy way that we express and move through our emotions. Although, when you're in that triggered place, one of my favorite things to do to express emotions is to like go in my car, like scream and cry and like scream sing. Scream singing is the best. Like I'll intentionally like take longer routes so I can scream sing for longer. If you haven't scream sang, it's like not trying to sound good, just fucking screaming. Yes. Yeah, it's really good. So yeah, finding the safe spaces. There's a lot of emotional release for sure. There's a lot of different communities and things that you can join, paid and free. I like punching pillows and yelling. Yes, I do all the time. Soul releasing, absolutely. Punching pillows is good. Get it out. Um, and like I will always bring it back to too, though, like bringing God into everything. So even in the crazy emotions, it's like, how much love can you feel for yourself in that process? Like, how much forgiveness for yourself can you feel for yourself in that process? For me, it's dancing. I love to forgive myself for being human too. Like, oh, I got really pissed off. Ooh, I was triggered. Ooh, I said that thing, and I probably shouldn't have said that, but I forgive myself because I'm a human, and that's part of the deal. We can't control every fucking thought and word that comes out of our mouth. It's like, no, we're gonna say the wrong thing. We're gonna do the wrong thing. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna learn. We're gonna evolve. We get another opportunity. We get an opportunity to make it right. Yeah. Yes to dancing, Natasha. I just did that yesterday and ended up crying and stomping, and it was so healing. Yeah, I love this. Cool. Well, I would love to, if you resonated with this, if you could just take like a little boomerang and share it on your Instagram and just tag me in it, that would be so awesome. And just like any takeaways that you had. I would love, is it cool with you all if I take a little boomerang of us? Is that cool? Okay. Give me one sec. All right. Ready? One, two, three. Cute. I love it. Awesome. Cool. Any last closing thoughts? Anyone desire to speak their voice? Any brave souls? No? Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, lovely, beautiful ladies. I have some men in my space, so I don't want to exclude the men, but we're all ladies here today. So I love you all. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I look forward to being connected with you all. Bye.